Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Week number 15, National Football League. I dubbed week number 13. What did I dub week 13 in the National Football League? I dubbed it Showdown Weekend. That's what I called it. Showdown Sunday. In the National Football League, there were a lot of big matchups in week 13, a lot of teams squaring off against each other that really had something to prove. Week 14, the NFL Network took it a step further. They called it Survivor Sunday. Okay, I'll take that. Week 15, I said, you know what? This is officially letdown weekend. A lot of teams had opportunities to do something really big in week 15. I mean, really monumental in the playoff standings. I mean, some gifts were handed out, or at least attempted to be handed out. And none bigger than the gift that Green Bay Packers gave or attempted to give to the Minnesota Vikings. The gift that keeps on giving. They tried to give them an opportunity to come one step closer to clinching the NFC East. Hey, how about that? You know what the Philadelphia Eagles said? Nah, don't think I want that gift. That's a really nice gift, though. Hey, we can win 16 and we will win the division. But nah. I think I'll work harder for the division. I think I like it that way. I think I'll go to week 17 on the road against the Cowboys and try to win it that way. Just seems better, huh? I don't know. But on Letdown Sunday, this was the biggest letdown of them all. Of course, I'm talking about the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Not only were the Philadelphia Eagles riding a 5-game winning streak, playing some really hot football, coming off, but probably, arguably, their biggest win of the season against Detroit a week ago in the Snow Bowl. Not just that team coming into Minnesota, but they're taking on a Minnesota Vikings team minus their top 2 running backs, their top 2 tight ends, and their top 2 cornerbacks. What more do you want? Oh, yeah, and Matt Castle is starting at quarterback. What are you doing? You're supposed to win this game, right? Right? Wrong. The Minnesota Vikings had other ideas. And I say this all the time. And I actually thought this one, but I said, nah, no way the Eagles are going to have a letdown of epic proportions on the road against the Vikings in the Dome. No. No way. And then when I found out there's no Adrian Peterson, there's no Toby Gerhart, there's no Kyle Rudolph, there's no John Carlson, there's no Chris Cook, there's nobody. When I found that out, I said, oh yeah, it's about to go down. This Eagles football team is about to go and throttle this Minnesota Vikings football team. But I said, and I say it all the time, every week's got a trap in it. Don't get caught in it. Well, guess the Eagles did not take my advice. So, you know what? The funny part about this is, because there's no notes needed for this game. When you get beat down the way the Eagles got beat down, there's no notes. But I'll say this. When I saw the score of this game and the way it was unfolding as I watched the bottom line during one of the games I was watching, I saw the score keep escalating for the Vikings, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I saw the furious comeback, and I'll break it all down. Let me just break the game down. How about that? Now, I'll tell you about it as I get to those points in the game. So, as this game started out, my initial reaction to the score, the final score, when watching the game, I said, okay, Eagles were absolutely destroyed in this game, okay? Got their shoes, coat, and their hat taken from them. You know, old-fashioned, passionate ass whooping, got your shoes, coat, and your hat taken. That's what I thought went on here. And I was expecting some Nicholas Foles interceptions, a Shady McCoy fumble, maybe a muffed punt. I was expecting Shady to be shut down on the ground. And just this team completely stifled offensively, and the Vikings just taking it to them. And what I saw was that really didn't happen. This was one of those situations where this Eagles defense regressed. And remember, when we came into the season this year, we were like, we don't know what this Eagles offense is going to be. This defense is going to stink. And that was the perception around the league, that this offense might be, world class. This might be an offense that's really hard to deal with. But this defense is going to hold this Eagles team back. That was the perception going into the season. As the weeks progressed, this Eagles defense got better. And the offense scored points, and it made it a lot easier on the defense. Hey, we don't have to stop the run. Teams are one-dimensional. All they have to do now, all they can do is pass because they're so far behind, and we're running up the score. Now they got to try to come back. So, In this game, what was obvious to me is that the Eagles, much like most teams that play the Vikings, decided that they weren't going to be burned by Cordarrelle Patterson. Okay, I get that. But what that did was it gave the Vikings great field position all game long. At some point, you just got to tell your special teams, man up. Go down, make a tackle. Don't let this guy beat us. But you can't just give them the ball every possession at the 30, 35, 40-yard line every time because you're afraid of them. I mean, that made it so much easier on the Vikings in this game. But, okay, forget about all of that. I thought the Vikings were going to dominate them on the ground. Matt Asiata had 30 carries for like 51 yards? What is that, a 1.5 yard per carry average or something? I don't even know what that is. But he still had 3 touchdowns. He caught the ball effectively out of the backfield. But the running game wasn't a problem. You guys were absolutely thrashed in the passing game. Greg Jennings had a career day. The backup tight end, Ford, went bananas. And so the defense let you down. That's number one. But what I saw was this Eagles team just made a mistake here, made a mistake there. It wasn't egregious. I thought you guys were absolutely blown to smithereens in this game. But you weren't. It was just a subtle mistake here, a subtle mistake there. And you couldn't stop them offensively. That's what it all boils down to in this game. Vikings jump out to an early lead in this game, something along the lines of 27-3, I believe, and then or 27-6, something along those lines. They really jumped out on top of these Philadelphia Eagles in this football game, and Eagles make a furious rally. You know, they get down there, they score a couple of touchdowns, they get within, I want to say 22-27, if I'm not mistaken, 23-27. 23, that's what it was. I think it was 23-27. And I thought this was the rally that was going to get them back in the game. And I'll tell you a couple of key plays in this game that really turned the balance in the favor of the Minnesota Vikings. You've got the Nicholas Foles interception that I thought, Deshaun Jackson maybe could have fought a little harder for. You saw the outburst on the sidelines. Wide receivers coach, he really got on him about not fighting for the football. Deshaun took offense to that, and he went postal. And, a couple of receivers tried to step in between that altercation and kind of calm him down. He really didn't want to hear a lot about it. Jason Avant was one of them, and they got into it a little bit. But, Jason Avant is a really good guy, and he smoothed it over with Deshaun Jackson. But Deshaun wanted, nothing to do with the wide receivers coach. And so they got into a big spat on the sidelines. Emotions were running high at that point. And so you're getting your ass handed to you. Your coach is yelling at you. It just doesn't mesh well, especially when you're a very volatile guy like Deshaun Jackson. But I thought that was a play in the game because you were starting to gain a little bit of momentum. The pick happens, whatever. But then, to me, the biggest blunder in this game, and again, you didn't have that many. I thought that you made a lot of mistakes in this game. I thought Shady got shut down. Shady only had 8 carries. He only had 8 rushing attempts. And he had 38 yards. Now, I didn't go to Harvard, but if I do my calculations correct, 8 for 38 yards, that's over 4 yards a pop. So it's not like he was getting shut down. You just stopped running the football. And when you fall behind the way you did in this game, hey, you got to give some things up. And one of those things was the running game. But the other huge mistake, and I thought this was the biggest one in the game, is on the double reverse, on 4th down, Nicholas Foles throws a peel back block. He cuts low on a defender, and he didn't have to do that. His block didn't affect the play at all. That guy was not catching D-Jacks from behind. He was going to score that touchdown anyway. And bless your heart, Nicholas. I know what you were trying to do, but it wasn't necessary. One, you put yourself in harm's way. You could have caught a knee to the dome and been knocked out cold, and you already had a concussion this year, so that's not necessary. Nobody wants to see that happen, so you didn't need to be going down low for that reason. Number 2, you didn't affect the play. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? That wasn't necessary. And so that penalty, to me, really changed the complexion of this game because that touchdown would have been huge in the landscape of this game. Instead, you wipe it off the board. You got to settle for a field goal because of that personal foul. Again, that was 4th down, so you got to kick a field goal. And you were never the same after that sequence of events. And the Vikings just took off from there. And they had their way in this football game. I mean, you can't let Matt Castle beat you. I mean, Matt Castle looked like he had a flashback to New England circa 2006. I mean, he really looked like a different guy. I mean, he looked like the Matt Castle that led Kansas City to a divisional championship in 2008 or 2009, whatever it was. I mean, he looked like a different guy. And you guys made him look like that. You gave him the opportunity to look like an all-pro quarterback. And he did that. And Greg Jennings had a career day. I mean, they really played well offensively. And credit must be given to the Minnesota Vikings. They really took it to this Eagles defense from start to finish. They mixed in the run. And even though it wasn't all that effective, they still did it anyway to keep you honest. And Matt Asiata thought he came in and played well. He caught the football exceptionally well out of the backfield. I was impressed with his hands and what he was able to do after the catch. And they just moved the sticks. They were very, very efficient on offense, were the Minnesota Vikings. Even when they were in 3rd and long, they found a way to pick it up. Big pass to Ford on a 3rd and long late in the ball game that really put this one away. Greg Jennings on a deep ball for a touchdown early in the football game. They were very efficient, were the Vikings on the offensive side of football. Credit must be given to them for that. Nicholas Foles threw for over 400 yards in this game. It's not like the Eagles couldn't do anything in this game. They moved the football. They just had to settle for too many field goals. You know the mantra. You know the motto. Field goals don't win games. Touchdowns do. And the Vikings, well, they scored plenty of those in this game. And the Eagles, not enough. Not nearly enough. It was the ending score, 48-30. Vikings win this one, going away. And this was so disappointing on so many different levels for the Philadelphia Eagles because, again, no Adrian Peterson, no Toby Gerhart. Okay, so no top 2 running backs for the Vikings. So you get Matt Asiata. Okay, you're supposed to be able to shut him down. You did, but he still hurt you in the passing game. Okay, no 2 tight ends, no top 2 tight ends for the Vikings. Okay, so you're feeling like, okay, I'm supposed to be able to shut them down. Well, Ford got off on you. So it's just so frustrating because you had everything in your favor in this game. You had the momentum. You're riding a 5-game winning streak. Everything is there in front of you for the taking. And then you didn't know this going into the game. You didn't know this at the end of the game. But you got a gift later on via the Green Bay Packers. One of your family members, or excuse me, one of the Vikings family members in the Green Bay Packers gave you a gift. They beat the Dallas Cowboys in that 4 o'clock game. Gave you an opportunity with one more win against Chicago in Week 16 to clinch the division. That's all you would have had to do was win, and you were in as the NFC East champions. Now, it looks like it's going to come down to week number 17. And it should, because you know the Cowboys want this division. Somebody's going to win this division by default. This was so disappointing because I thought the Eagles were building something here. And then to have this happen, that's bad. And it's too close to the postseason for this to be happening. You know, it's okay if you would have lost this game by a late field goal. It would have been okay if maybe you could have convinced yourself that, hey, we shot ourselves in the foot. You were just thoroughly dominated offensively by the Minnesota Vikings. They couldn't be stopped offensively. Your defense had a terrible day. Had some penalties, some pass interferences, some tackles out of bounds, some personal fouls. It just did a lot of nonsense defensively, and the Vikings took advantage of every single mistake you made on the defensive side of football. Soft coverages, a lot of underneath routes were wide open, and guys were catching the football and making things happen after the catch. So a lot of things you have to tighten up on the defensive side of the football. But again, it's only one game. Erase this one from the memory bank. See if you can get a huge win at home versus Chicago in week number 16 because you're going to need it. And so that's going to do it for this installment of In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Thank you for joining me. And I really don't know what to say. I mean, big win for the Minnesota Vikings. I thought that they came out and they dominated this football game, and they took advantage of everything the Eagles were giving them. They were giving them great field position because they were scared of Cordell Patterson, and they took that field position and they made something happen with it. I mean, special teams, chimed in and really had an impact on this game as well, pinning the Eagles deep in their own territory a lot of times, and Marcus Sherrills had a couple of nice returns in this game. I just thought the Vikings, they went out and they dominated this football game. And so Vikings go to 4-9-1 on the season. Eagles, it's a tough loss. They go to 8-6 on the season, still leading the NFC East. And again, you can still win this division. You're still in the driver's seat. Just win. Just win, baby. Like Al Davis says, just win. Just win, baby. So if you just win, the division's yours. But this was an opportunity to really put yourself that much closer to calling yourself the NFC East champions of 2013. Now you're going to have to work a little bit harder for it, but it's still there for the taking. You just got to reach out and grab it. But you didn't seize the moment. Here in Letdown Sunday, you were one of the biggest culprits of a letdown in Week 15. It's going to do it for me here on the program. I thank you for joining me. I've got plenty more games to break down in week number 15 of the National Football League.